How are you doing, Austin?
Doing well, Brennan. How are you?
Good. You know what we should talk about?
What should we talk about?
Co-founders.
Oh, that's a fun topic.
It is. Again, like we talked about before, we can only speak to our experience.
Yep. Which we've been told is very different than probably 99% of the other co-founders are working together.
Very different. And from our experience, too.
Yeah.
But generally, before we get into it, we just want to... The goal of this one is to say choosing a co-founder or co-founders is one of, if not the most important thing you can do to define the trajectory of your journey.
Yeah. That's 100%. Because if you're not working with the right person, one, can't take criticism well. You can't float ideas, wacky ideas, good ideas, serious ideas, having that separation. There's so many reasons why having the right co-founder is important.
Yeah. The conventional wisdom that you often hear, which is probably also true, is that on your co-founding team, you want a mix of, well, the most cliche is the hacker, the hipster, and the hustler, specifically in tech. Like the hacker would be a technical co-founder, the hipster would be marketing, and the hustler would be like the catch-all, gets everything done, coordinates, hustles, the one that hustles. And that is probably true. But what we found, at least so far, is maybe that's not all. And hopefully, because this is our situation, it's not absolutely necessary. Like for us, for example, we seem to be having a pretty good go of it so far, and neither of us are technical, which to a lot of people is a red flag on a founding team. So why are we so convicted that we work well together and that we have what it takes to get this done, even though neither of us have experience in marketing, neither of us have experience in like operating a large business, and neither of us have experience technically. So like, why do we still think that we have the elements of a good founding team?
Yeah, I think there used to be this game, it was a box and there was marbles on it, and you would have to like try and not get the marbles in the circle. You try to avoid everything. Anyways, what we are is we are the marbles rolling. But the opposition of that game, once there's a free circle, i.e. trying to get something done, either of us can go fill that hole and figure it out. We're really good at kind of like taking over where the other left off, or kind of fluidly crossing paths on what our goals are, what we're working on. We kind of just seem to overlap, except technical stuff.
Yeah. Or also like Team Rocket in
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
That they're both, I guess maybe you could say like generalists. We're both generalists, and we both have the ability to figure it out and do what it takes to get done what needs to get done.
Yeah. Like you like the wild ideas, and I try to find ways to make them plausible.
Exactly. We also counterbalance each other.
We do very well.
So both of us have the ability to figure things out, and we act as counterweights. Not only in ideas, but also like this hasn't happened yet to a dramatic degree, but one of us might be very dejected or low energy, and we know each other very well. So sometimes it's like, all right, this guy's dejected and low energy, and that's just how it's going to be. Yeah. I'll pick up the slack. And sometimes it's like, this guy's dejected and low energy. Let me try to pick him up.
Yeah.
And maybe the most important secret sauce of one way that a co-founding team might work, at least in our experience, is like just click with your co-founder. Yeah. Like we've been friends for how many
years? Was it 9
years?
9 years?
9 years now, almost 10. And so, you get to know a person that way.
Yeah.
And one thing with the co-founding relationship is like, yes, you need to have technical marketing, or at least the ability to get technical marketing and management done. But also, like, you're in a relationship with them basically. Like there's the joke among friends. Often if if a couple friends have a significant other. Sometimes the significant other will be like, "Oh, I'm just the third wheel." Ha ha ha.
We got that in our previous relationships.
We got that, and a lot of people listening might have gotten that as well. But man, picture that relationship and like actually make it a relationship. Imagine what a relationship is like, and then apply that to a friendship or like a non-romantic relationship. That's the amount of like commitment. You could say non-romantic intimacy is involved in a co-founding relationship, and so you gotta be willing to tolerate the goods and the bads and the middles.
You get to deal with everything.
Yeah,
and we're on another level because we live together. So it was like we are truly always together for large amounts of time.
Yeah,
which is good, but the problem that we had was like we would work all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
So there's never that like the lines got blurred to a strong degree, and even like us, like we've known each other for 9 years, and we're like you can't be better friends with the person, and still it strained our relationship.
It did, and we enjoyed it, but we also had to take a step back and be like, all right, this is what we see. Is this gonna ruin our relationship as friends? Because that's what we go back to. It's like that's
friends
the
gotta
all
stay.
And all is that's the most important thing is our friendship.
Yeah.
And we're like, the rate we're at now, it might not ruin that, but it'll cause tension. So what can we do to scale back and just like have a separation? And for us, we found out it was just setting harder parameters on when we're working and when we're having fun.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a massive change.
Huge change.
And also just going after things that we enjoy doing. Like I got way back into rock climbing again, which feels good. It's an activity that I've always loved doing and enjoy doing and wanting to be around. And it just, you click because you go in these different areas and we have the separation time.
It lets you hold a certain sense of individuality again too, which when starting something, pick your co-founder, but you also got to pick the working relationship such that you can maintain a sense of individuality. That's true. So I guess like maybe we're going to succeed because we have the ability to figure it out enough to let our ability to work together shine through. Like that's our strength is like we work well as a team. And that seems just as important as like a technical aptitude.
And it's like what's good is we let our personalities shine. So like the video that we have not released yet, but it was a lot of fun to film. It's like that was totally our personality because it was wacky, it was fun, it was enjoyable making. Oh,
the one that was cold?
Yeah, very cold.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like that was us. And it was just like, all right, we should do this. Yeah, but we should also do this on top of that. Man, it'd be cool if we even did this.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's wacky and it's so far out of left field, but it's us.
Another thing that's important that we learned is, like you said, drawing the lines between work and play. What is it like to work with a friend? Because when you're in work, it's not just hours on talking about business stuff as friends and then hours off being friends. It's like you switch to professional mode.
Yeah.
And one of the most important parts where this comes up is where there are moments of disagreement.
Yeah.
At different levels of intensity, because you're gonna have to get through that.
You gotta talk through it, and you gotta, and that's also knowing each other's communication styles.
That's big. Yeah.
If you're shutting down and I see that, how can I approach you to open you back up so we can talk about it productively, or vice versa, right? We can see that each other, and like what you talked about with the energy, 100%. I mean, our greatest achievement or our greatest strength and biggest fault is we talk about business 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. But we can do it just, and it's not even serious. Well, I'll be on my trundle, about to go to bed, and it's gonna be midnight, and we're just gonna be flying through stuff.
Yeah. The thing probably too is with all that, never take anything personally to offense, either like, oh, this
Mm.
person has better ideas than me, or this person is better at this than me, because like this is why we're also co-founders, because we make up for each other's weaknesses.
Yeah.
So we can't get
100%.
insecure about that. But then also like, oh, this person doesn't like my idea, they don't like me.
Yeah.
So that's also, it's like, don't start thinking that way, because
Yeah.
that's probably not.
And we're good at like breaking things down and talking about why these certain things will work or certain things won't work. And like you said, we're not offended when that comes up.
Yeah.
And we still like to have a good time.
Still like to have a good time. Yeah, that's a good point. I think, as far as our experience goes, I think that's the number one thing that we can recommend is because we don't know much about what it's like to work on a founding team with hipster, hacker, hustler type of setup of founding team. It's more of the work. It's just more of like, we set it up. We chose each other because we work well together.
Yeah.
And we can conquer any problem together.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's beyond just us two realizing this. This has been brought to our attention more times than I can count. It's like, man, you guys are the two young, youthful guys doing the things with the phones, or like just people know us as a team.
Yeah.
Or like when we were at Launch Reno and Jessica came up. She's like, "Oh, where's your better half?" And it's just like just jokingly fun because people associate Simple with like just us.
Yeah.
And they're used to that. And we just kind of made a name for ourselves as this is what we're doing. This is who we are. People like being around us, and people recognize our energy that we bring to the table.
Yeah.
It's always talked about like you guys are always excited, always going after stuff, always we see you everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like that's on purpose.
Yeah.
One, it's because we feed off each other's energy, and two, it's because we allow each other to push each other and not belittle or get on each other when we have a crazy idea.
Mm-hmm. That's giving each other room to be them and support the other one in their own expression.
Mm-hmm.
And we play off each other well.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we do like to that end is we know our strength, and you're right, we very intentionally play that up in like a context of building this project, and we don't try to kid ourselves that we can be exceptional at things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
And so that's when it comes to like using how can we work together and use our resources to fill those gaps of the things that we're not good at. And I think that's like another really important part of a founding team is to put your heads together and to be honest and to be like, yo, we're really bad at this, and and we need this. So what are we going to do about this?
And we just get scrappy with it.
Yeah. And so we really play up our strengths and we use it to our advantage, but we're not insecure or arrogant to the point where we can't see our weaknesses. And that's super important.
Yeah, and we got to this point, like initially the first couple months were literally all the time we're together. But now we're at this point in development where you are at the house doing technical stuff and I'm out doing networking stuff or in meetings or whatever. And it's like, that's fine because we know that the other person's being productive in what they're doing and it's going to be pushing us along to the next step. Yeah.
Yeah.
No longer like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. No, it's like we both have our jobs we're working on. So in constant communication, whether it's on 15 different platforms.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing for us, one of the best things for us, is I like how we constantly push each other and we both pursue new information.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a majority of our messages, it's like, check this podcast out, read this article, listen to this, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're always sending that back and forth, trying to build on each other's, like the information that we know. One, because it's beneficial for us, and two, we both know that we like to learn new things.
Yeah.
So
never stop learning.
Never stop learning. And that's something that we do extremely well.
Yeah. That's a really good point too for any founding team to probably remember is where one starts, one will not end.
Yeah.
Like it's a continual journey and it's never static. And one's knowledge at a certain point will never be sufficient because there's always room to grow. And so it's better to lean into that and be like, hey, let's grow as a team. If I see something to you and you see something to me, just like you said, that's probably going to help lift all boats in terms of knowledge. We share that.
Yeah.
Because like knowledge is imperative.
Like what do we both go through now? Right now it's the Founders podcast. Absolute excellent podcast.
Listen to the Founders podcast.
Listen to the podcast, Beggars. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
But like we went to the gym and we're like, all right, we're gonna go on the stairs for the length of an episode. Go.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you listen to it in your own realm, and then by the end we talked about so much from that podcast. It's like, all right, cool. How do we take this from this podcast? How do we take this from this podcast or this video that we saw?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the meetings where we've had meetings with tons of different people. We pull all this different bits of information, what we think is going to benefit us.
Yeah.
And we pull it out, we mull it down, and we talk about it.
Yeah. Very often, people want to make an argument of earned wisdom is better than learned wisdom, meaning knowledge by experience is better than knowledge by learning or taking these tricks. Like, for example, from the Founders podcast is just talking about, it's basically biography. And what we have realized and what we're taking advantage of is like learned and earned wisdom both have a place.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no point in playing them off against each other.
No.
Use both and maximize both.
Well, might as well.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Yeah, you go for it.
I'd say, especially if you want to, our favorite saying, increase your statistical likelihood of success. You need that. You need to be agile.
Yeah.
We're extremely agile. We just had an idea come up yesterday where it totally kind of changed the way we're thinking about stuff and approaching stuff. And we take that idea and say, okay, here's our roadmap. Here's this idea. How can we bridge them two together where it's going to be productive and build on both of them?
Does it fit?
Yeah,
I mean, that's another good point. Like, we are who we have right now as a founding team. And, like, we have our roadmap. But, like you said, and as we've experienced, very often in the building journey, new ideas and developments and how we want to build, they don't come incrementally.
Yeah.
They are like you said yesterday, they're brain blasts.
Yeah.
Like how we experience developing this project in idea, and actually they come in like punctuated points, very specific instances in time where an idea enters your brain. And like that's how the idea of the project grows.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gradual part is actually implementing.
Yeah.
And so like one of the most important things to remember, and one of the things that we implement in our relationship is, like you said before, give the other room to like have the crazy idea, entertain it, ask questions around it, and like take every idea seriously, because that's how growth happens.
Yeah.
Really no point in shooting anything down.
Correct.
You know?
It's funny because Cindy had mentioned this is something that she really likes that we do is we'll take information from anybody and talk to people and spread our network out. But we are good because we have clear end goals of what we want, and we are true to what we believe, and we won't let up on that.
Yep.
We'll take ideas coming in from different areas, but if it doesn't fit in with those end goals that we believe, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're very true, and we know who we are.
That's another big ingredient of success, I think, that it's almost fatal if you don't have it, but it's an alignment of values and goals. On the goals end, for example, we're building a dumb phone, and our goals are primarily to help consumers, and we're entertaining B2B. More on that later, but that's not like the primary goal.
No.
And so, of course, ideas will evolve over time, but that's a conversation to be had, not a decision to be made and then communicated by one person to the other.
We're only doing one thing because we want this to get done fast.
Yeah, and you need to be aligned on those goals. And similarly, and almost more importantly, because they're more steadfast and they last longer than ideas, is values.
Yeah.
And so, having values alignment really focusing, like having a similar idea on what matters and how am I going to be as a human as I go through this process is super important to have with the people that you're doing it
We
with.
stress that very heavily. And we stress it beyond just us. We stress it to a point of anybody we work with and take on to the team when we get to that point needs to align with these values. Why? Because we don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
These are non-negotiables that we're not willing to budge in any way.
Because once you let a fox into the sheep's pen, then
Game over.
game over. Yeah.
And we still have, like we talked about, our end mission, our end object, our perfect, this is what it will be at the end, our golden halo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how are we going to achieve that? Well, it's going to be by the team.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
One thing to remember too that I guess we've alluded to is the founder relationship will change over
100%,
time.
100%.
Like the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that first and to be accepting of that. And I think we realized once we became accepting of the fact that it's like, okay, in this specific instance, things need to change or it's not going to go. Once we acknowledge that it's like, okay, we got to stop trying to force our specific idea of how we need to work together, then we found a solution.
Yeah.
And we got to the other side. So it's like working with change, even in the relationship between a founder, whether you guys have been childhood best friends or just met last weekend, that is super important.
Either foster the relationship or you're a threat to the relationship.
Yeah.
And goes back to that change. As that change comes, what path are you choosing?
Yeah.
Are you going to feel threatened by something? Or are you going to feel, okay, fostering growth, this relationship based on this decision?
Yeah.
So it's important.
It's important. That's about it for me for I think what advice that we can give for founding relationships.
It's a fun navigation. It's a fun thing to navigate.
Yeah.
And we're only growing, getting better, constantly pushing. But yeah, that's about it. We can only speak on where we're at.
Yep.
Guess we'll see in a year's time.
Yeah, let's see how it goes, huh?
Maybe we'll be at each other's throats then, but
Maybe.
you know,
God willing. God willing.
Then we're doing something right.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you don't get on each other's nerves every once in a while, then what's the point?
You're not thinking big enough.
You're not thinking big enough.
Yep.
You're not pushing each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, these are the Founders Files.
Peace.